Denetra Hampton is a 22-year Navy veteran and a former United States Naval Nurse Corps officer. Her educational background includes a Bachelor of Science in Nursing and a Master's in Health Sciences Administration. She has served in multiple leadership positions, ranging from naval operations to community education. She is now the founder and producer of At For Nurses by Nurses Productions, a media educational platform that highlights the story of those who have contributed to the health sciences, culture, and community. Denetra has been married to her husband, Sean, for 30 years. So, the topic for today, her topic is finding your North Star,
Mhm.
my journey on faith and becoming. And we always ask people if they could give us a couple of questions related to the group, related to their topic. So take note, I'm going to read them twice. Number one, what patterns have you noticed in your life that keep tugging at you to come closer to your faith? Have you become close enough to God to recognize those patterns and then act upon them? So, one more time, what patterns have you noticed in your life that keep tugging at you to come closer to your faith? Have you become close enough to God to recognize those patterns and then act upon them? I'm going to momentarily um, shut off my video because I forgot to get my little notebook. But and now Denetra Hampton.
Oh, what a great introduction. And good morning, everybody. Good
Good
morning.
morning.
Happy Saturday. What a great Saturday. Somebody mentioned that when they came on, and they were spot on because it
Yeah.
was beautiful
Beautiful.
outside. And I have to say, I couldn't think of a better way to start this Saturday with you all, you wonderful ladies. What a great opportunity to share my story. I'll just preface everything with a big thank you to Natalie for inviting me. I think I mentioned earlier when they had a little huddle before they opened up the Zoom that I don't know what took her so long to invite me. I mean, this is great. This is good stuff. You guys got some good stuff going on, and I'm grateful to be here. But I am a storyteller. So when the opportunity came for me to tell my story, I thought, wow, this is going to be a little bit different because I'm used to telling everybody else's story. But as life is, this is what life is part of. It's part of having our own story. Everybody has a story, right? And the great thing about it, everybody, is that we get to share that story no matter the ups, the downs, whatever happens in our journey, it's our unique story. And God has given us that story to share with our loved ones, to share with the world, and most importantly, to create whatever impact that story has and just give it away. That is what part of life is. And the great thing again against for all of us is that we all have our unique stories. And we all should embrace that because it is ours to share. And so, one of the great things about my story is that it began in this little small town called Paris, Texas. I'm a country girl. I love the very idea of saying that I was born and raised in Paris, Texas. The whole idea of that is just grand. I love small town stuff, small town drama, small town stores, small town churches, small town everything. So, being raised in a little small town has affected my entire being, my professional life, my personal life. As Natalie mentioned in the intro, I've been married for 30 years to my husband, and both of us are retired military. I served 22 years, as Natalie mentioned. My husband served 30 years. He is a retired officer as well. So we grew up together in the military. We both are country folks. He's from Georgia and I'm from Texas. So we just have country stuff all over the place. And he is part of my story, 30 years of my story. So 22 years in the United States Navy didn't come easy. Again, I started out in Texas, small town. I'm glad that I was raised that way. Um, it affected my faith from being a small girl raised in this town, from even from high school. One of the things that affected me moving forward was that this was a small town, but I was the first African American high school homecoming queen at my high school. So, so in 1986, Paris High School selected their very first African American homecoming queen, and that was Denetra Hampton. And so that set off something amongst my journey because it it carried over into everything that I did because everyone now knew that there was this unique thing about Denetra Hampton. She was the first Black homecoming queen. And so amongst the little small towns where I was. And then I went off to college. I went to a little small college called Tyler, Texas Community College. And I went to nursing school. I decided to do 1 year. They had this little program that was 1 year. I did that, but then I ended up deciding to go to the United States Navy. So that's how I got into the Navy. And they offered all of this good stuff. You know, the recruiters come out and they say, oh, you know, if you join the Navy, you're going to have all these great opportunities. And it was so. So I joined the Navy and I became a information systems operator. Not quite a nurse in the beginning. I became an information systems operator. And then that led me into naval intelligence. So before I became a nurse, I worked in naval intelligence for 15 years. Talk about a story. So I went from all of those things, and then my husband also works in warfare. So we were working in these top secret environments, and one of us decided that one of us had to leave because he was going overseas a lot. I was going overseas. The very area where we have a lot of things going on now. I used to be stationed in Bahrain, that very clinic that is now no longer there. I was there for a couple of years. So that's part of my story. And so I decided that I would leave the Navy and my husband would stay in the Navy. So I got out of at least the information systems department and then I became a nurse. And I went to Hampton University. I applied for this naval officer program called the Medical Enlisted Commissioning Program. And that program allowed you to go to the college of your choice. And I opted to go to Hampton University because my husband was stationed in Norfolk. So went to Hampton University and graduated from their nursing program and then went back into the Navy as an officer because that was part of the deal, this fantastic opportunity that the Navy had given me. So I went back into the Navy as a naval officer and I served. One of those places was overseas here in Bahrain. And so your faith continues to move forward. I believe that faith has levels to it because as you're growing up, you grow up in church and you grow with what you're taught. And then you become an older adult. And then if you're lucky enough, you move throughout that faith as life teaches you, as your story continues to develop. And so as a professional, I kept moving forward, meeting different people, going different places, having all kinds of experiences. And your faith continues to grow in that type of arena. But during that time, my mom died. Her name is Ruby.
Mm.
And so I ask you to take note of that as we move forward with the theme of, are you able to recognize patterns in your life when God is showing you something? My mother's name is Ruby, and she died of breast cancer.
Mm.
And after she died, about a month after she died, I was laying in bed and the phone rang. It was about 3 o'clock in the morning because I looked at the clock. And I'm thinking to myself, well, we had already buried mom. I'm not sure who is calling me at 3 o'clock in the morning. My husband was laying in the bed next to me, and of course, when the phone rings at 3 o'clock in the morning, so everybody's like, what is going on? So he turns over. I answer the phone and I said, hello. And it was an older lady, I could tell by the voice. And she said, may I speak to Ruby? And I said, there's nobody here by the name of Ruby. And she said, okay, thank you. And I sat there for the remainder of the morning. I laid there. My husband turned around really quickly because he heard me say Ruby. And I said to him, someone called and they asked for Ruby. And he said, I heard that. So that was the beginning of my mother giving me a sign that she was going to be with me for the rest of this journey. I didn't know it at the time, but it stuck with me. It was something that got my attention that, okay, this is going to be my North Star. Because if I hear my name, hear my mother's name, it brings up, it triggers me, right? I mean, there's something about all of us that if you hear it, it triggers you about something. Well, I think God knew that would get my attention. So time would move on, and I would go through so many different changes throughout my professional life. One of them is that I would retire. I retired in 2010. And I ended up not knowing what I was going to do, but decided that I would start this little shop of teaching students who had problems with nursing school. So I started a little shop in Suffolk, Virginia, and it was a good thing. I was teaching students who were not able to pass their license to become a nurse, and it was a good thing. So started that, and as time would move on, when I tell you about noticing patterns in your life along your journey, I remember just driving up down the road. And one particular time I was driving, and as soon as I looked up, it was a little dirt road and a sign said the Ruby Road. And so I'm saying to myself, okay, the Ruby Road. Now I say that and I tell that particular story because faith is about, in my journey, what I've learned and about this North Star of Ruby is that if you're lucky enough, God will give you a North Star when He is trying to lead you along a certain path. And when I would get weary, that sign would pop up that I was in the right direction, giving me comfort, giving me direction, giving me guidance. And that's what I've learned about faith and the genius of God. Because God is so amazing that everything that he does is unique to you. Now, the naked eye, when they see Ruby, it doesn't matter. It doesn't mean anything. But the eye of faith, for me, Ruby means everything. So seeing that little sign on that dirt road when I was in a space of, not understanding why I was going along this path, and that sign popped up, Ruby, it gave me confirmation. It gave me comfort. It gave me a little bit of guidance to say, okay, Denetra, you're on the right path. So keep going. Now I'm going to lead you down to another story about the next level of faith. Now, it's one thing to see a sign, but it's another thing to act, as I mentioned in the other question, on those signs. Because for all of you who are watching this, you're ladies of faith, obedience is better than sacrifice. And so this next story that I'm going to tell you is about obedience, that next level of faith. There was a young lady who has since died of brain cancer. She was a friend of mine. I grew up with her in the Navy. We kind of, became good friends in the Navy. And when I got out of the Navy, she knew that I had started this workshop that I just mentioned, and I was trying to build a little business with it. But she had another friend. And she had a friend that she went to church with who was a millionaire, had been doing this business, been doing entrepreneur for a long time. And she thought that this would be someone who would be a good mentor to me. And she wanted to introduce us. So she did a dinner party. And she invited myself and she invited this young lady. And that gave us an opportunity to meet each other. I thought it was fantastic because I was just trying to figure out how to get this stuff going. And I mean, to have someone who had been doing it for years and was, successful at it, this was a good thing. So went to the dinner party, met her, exchanged information. So as time would go on, I would get better at what I was doing. In the beginning, sometimes people meet you and they don't think you're good enough to talk to. Okay, we know that. This is life. Sometimes you meet people who are a little bit more successful than you are at the time. And they may not necessarily want to have a conversation with you. So time would go on and I would get better at what I'm doing. And there was another friend of mine, pay attention to this, an outside friend. She didn't know anything about the other two friends. She reached out to me on Facebook and she said, Denetra, there was a lady who called me and wanted me to attend a conference and speak about healthcare, but it's not my area and I knew that I wouldn't be good at it. I thought maybe you would do it. And I mentioned your name to her. Now, the person who reached out to her was the same lady, was the millionaire lady who I met at the conference, who had kind of rejected me a little bit. And I hadn't talked to her over, years. This was a year, maybe 6-7 years. And when I heard her name, I said, that's interesting. And she said, well, I gave her your information, so she should be reaching out to you. I said, okay. But she didn't reach out to me. About 3 months later, she reached out to me. And she asked me to be on a board. She had this board where she was doing entrepreneurship for young girls, and she was developing a board. She wanted me to be a board member. And I thought about it and I said, okay, this is a person who I had not known, hadn't been in touch with for years. So why is God bringing this person back around? And most importantly, bringing back a person around that I don't like. Bringing back a person who had rejected me. Why is God bringing this person back around twice? Why? So I paid attention to that. And I was in a space in my life where I understood the energy of that. And so I said yes, even when I didn't really want to say yes. I obeyed the process of it. So I said yes to being on the board. So I went in and they had their first board meeting, and I attended the board meeting, and I still was in a space of, okay, why am I here? I know I'm supposed to get something from this, but what is going on? Because this person, there's not really a genuine connection there. So what am I doing here, God? So about 6 months later, they decided to do a party for the young girls, and they were going to give the young girls awards. So they brought the awards in to show the board members before they gave it out to the young girls. And when they opened up the box, the award said the Ruby Award.
Wow.
And I sat there and I almost cried because I had to say, just instinctively, I said, that's my mom's name. And everybody on the board said, that's your mom's name. I said, that's my mother's name. And so I sat there for a little bit, and then I realized that I had passed the test. Now, let me go back and tell you what I believe the test was now. Anytime that God in your journey, your faith, your whatever this is, he's trying to move you through. It's different for everybody. When he's trying to take you to a next level. Now, our levels of faith can be small or big. A lot of times we believe that if God doesn't do a big move, it's not God. That's not so. Sometimes it's a little small move, a little small step. When he's trying to move you in your faith, you have to pass a test. And sometimes he will bring back something that needs to be healed. Someone who has previously rejected you, can you go in and serve that person? Can you go in and humble yourself at the feet of someone who previously rejected you? Can you humble yourself in service to that?
Denetra, look who just came in.
Who?
Ruby.
Oh!
Oh, please
God.
continue.
Wow.
Oh.
Wow.
If you had any doubt, my dear.
So, see in the bottom corner of the name, Ruby. Wow. Someone just joined the club, but I need the, I need Ruby. It's not working, so they can't hear us. Oh, that's okay. I'll just. They can hear it.
Does anybody know Ruby?
I do. It is probably Cherie Austin on Ruby's account.
What I
Is
was
that-
thinking.
Yeah.
Is that Cherie?
Sheree Well, go ahead, Denetra. I'm sorry.
Yes,
Yeah, go ahead.
yes.
Wow.
If you can,
So
Denetra.
Take a breath.
I really want to express to anyone who may watch this, who is trying to figure out what God is taking you through to get to the next phase, is that when you encounter an experience with Him, and I hadn't shared this, but Oswald Chambers, if you're familiar with Oswald Chambers and his teachings, I follow him and I have read his teachings throughout my journey. He speaks about the experience in his book, and the utmost for his highest. And there's a page in there that talks about the experience. When you have that experience with God, undoubtedly He's going to give you a North Star, because the call is between you and God. It is not between you and the world, it's between you and God. And so He has to show Himself to you in the way that you will understand, so that you understand that it's Him. And so when I am making a decision, when I am trying to decide what to do, where to place my work, um, whether or not I'm in the right place, my mom shows up. And it has happened again and again and again, even when I'm being warned about something. I remember being invited to the University of Boston School of Nursing to speak on my scientific storytelling, the work that I do. And I couldn't there was something in that space where I had previously tried to make a decision on whether or not I should go there. And when I got there, because when you're in alignment, with God, you have help, and the help is called the Holy Spirit. When you are in alignment, that help is a spirit, and you feel whether or not you should be doing something or not. At least your intuition would tell you. And so when I got to the university, I went, and when I got to the university, I was introduced, along the way by the dean, and all of the VIPs introduced me to the faculty and all of those things. And then I was sitting out in the area drinking some coffee. And so the elevator opened up, and here comes running out this girl. And she goes, "Oh, Miss Hampton, I'm so glad I got to meet you. I was thinking I wasn't going to get to see you because I missed you downstairs." And I was like, "Well, hello." I was like, "Who are you?" She said, "My name is Ruby."
Wow.
I said, "Ruby?" She said, "Yes." And I just was I didn't think I was going to get to meet you because everyone said you were gone. I was like, "Well, you made it. And I'm glad that I got to meet you." And so if you're not, again, I was concerned about a space, and mom popped up and let me know you're in the right direction. And so those are just one or two things that I've shared. And I'm going to go back to the story with the young lady who had rejected me, because that was a big turning point for my faith and for the reason I'm in the position I'm in now. So I want to go back to that so that everybody understands how God, his genius, his ability to go into spaces in our lives, the little crevices, and create a huge impact on us, so that we understand that he's there, that he is doing this, and that we are in the right space. So you have a young lady who had previously rejected me, and we all know what rejection feels like. Okay, you are rejected, you go away, this person comes back around, you obey, because the test was whether or not I was going to go and serve someone who wouldn't have done it for me. The test was whether or not I was going to go humble myself and serve a person who didn't feel that way about me. And I did it. And the confirmation that I had passed that level of faith and obedience was that award, ironically, that came into that boardroom named Ruby. And I want to express that to all of you, because I know all of you are women of faith, is that right after that, I realized that, okay, Denetra, you did a good thing. You did a good thing. 2 weeks later, the story of the Black Angels, which was my first film, crossed my path. And that was the beginning of me moving into being a filmmaker. The shift from just working in a workshop to becoming a filmmaker shifted from that obedience, because now God can trust me with the next space. This is what I want to share about faith and the call and the being in alignment. Everything happens as you become the next thing. As you become the person that God is trying to develop you into for your true destiny, it's steps, because that's who God is. It's a process. It's not a big one-shot thing. It is as you become and as you pass the test that he can trust you with the next thing. Now, God is perfection. And if he gives you a vision and a call, he means for you to get there. But he also understands that he's also developed the process that you need. He knows what Denetra Hampton needs so that she can be the right person to handle the thing that's up there waiting for me. The big thing, whatever that is, that this work is going to require for me to have character, responsibility, all of those things that are of God, character. I have to go through all of those things to get there. And this was just one of those tests. And this is only the one I'm sharing. But I have been through multiple things at different levels of faith that test the things of God, which is character, reputation, all of those things that are of God. We know what do they say? You know them by their fruit, right? You know them by their fruit. And those are the things that God tests as you go along your journey. He doesn't test your credentials, because I qualify those that I call. Okay? So that's what the process means. You have to get qualified to get to that thing. Destiny is waiting on you, or whatever that gift that God has promised you, whatever the way is, it's waiting for you. But faith is that thing that you have to go through. And I have learned over time, and I mentioned, growing up in a small church, you learn what faith is just by what you learn as a young child. But now as a woman, I understand that faith has so many different levels. And it requires you to become the very thing that God has destined you to be over time, because he is a God of process. And so my process gave me a North Star. And that North Star was my mother, Ruby. And ever since she died, me receiving that phone call, no pun intended, the call on my life has been guided by her name. And every time I go into a space, and I'm going to tell you this just simply because I'm compelled to now. since Ruby came into the into the chat. I had really contemplated on whether or not I should be here. When Natalie invited me, I sat and I prayed about, okay, every time I get offered an opportunity, I always want to make sure that I'm in alignment with what God wants me to do. And I got a really good feeling about being here. And I think I made the right decision.
Denetra, I think we would agree very much. I wanted to check in to see, would you prefer to continue to share with us, or do you think, is there a time for us to
Oh,
break?
we're stories. You get to talking about these stories and they just fly.
They do. They do.
Well, I'm gonna wrap it up. I'm
Okay.
gonna wrap it up. And just that one story that I was sharing for you about that award, that was the biggest thing that happened for me. It'll shift in my journey and in my faith is when that award came after I humbled myself to serve someone who otherwise would not have done it for me. And that is the biggest lesson I want to leave with everyone. Sometimes you have to just release yourself and then let God take you to the next space. Amen.
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 Yeah.
Right, amen.
I didn't realize I was talking that long.
Oh, I could listen to you for a whole lot longer.
Keep on going.
We'll turn to the group. Should we break into groups and address Denetra's questions? Or should we stay as a group and hear more of Denetra?
So, Kathy, how much time would we have for breakout?
About 10 minutes.
10
How
minutes.
many of us are there here?
There are 10.
It's 12.
Well, actually, yes, because we've got 4 in the one room. So we could break into 3 groups.
4 in the room and then two online.
Yes.
So I'm just laying the groundwork. What does the group want to do?
I'd rather hear more.
Me too. Me too.
Yes.
Me too.
I gotta stay.
Well, I tell you, you guys are gonna have to invite me out for tea. And
Oh, we
then
will.
I'll come and we'll talk about faith and we'll talk about stories. That way we won't have to have Zoom time. You can invite me out for tea, Natalie.
Anytime, Denetra, anytime.
Yeah.
This has been so rewarding for me personally. And when so for the group, I was saying earlier, I first met Denetra in Hampton at she was there was she was
Hampton
there was an
History.
opening for her story on civil rights and nursing called the Dixie Three. And my mother and I went, and of course, at that time, my mother still was the bilateral amputee. So I was like, oh my gosh. It was a sunny day, but it was a windy day. So anyway, we went and we got there and we parked in the parking lot across the street from Denetra, where was it at the
It was
at a
Hampton
library?
Museum. Hampton History Museum.
Museum Live, yeah. And we parked across the street. I went in, got my mother out of the vehicle, went to the elevator, and there was a sign that says, well, the elevator is closed. I was like, really? You couldn't put that at the beginning, at the entrance? So we go back, I get my mother back in the car, and then we drive around because it's not the greatest place to find parking. So
Yeah.
then we found a park, we get her out of the car again. We go in the museum, and we watched the film.
Yeah.
And so that was those were challenges for me. I mean, I was not happy about not knowing the elevator was not functioning before I had done everything. I was a little bit miffed about it, if you want to know the truth. Anyway, but I'm so glad, and the film is fabulous. And I've been still working on getting it out here to the Fine Arts Museum.
Great
They've
story.
they've changed they've changed they've changed leadership there, but I don't anticipate that being any problem. Anyway, so then Denetra came to speak to another organization I'm a member of, the NAACP, and then I just thought, well, let's see what happens with women with breath of fresh air, and here you are.
Here
So
I am.
I'm so grateful to you and so grateful for Cherie, well, for God bringing Ruby to this meeting. I mean, that's just,
This is everything. I'm telling you guys, as I move forward with my journey, I know the vision God has given me. I know where I'm headed, and this little situation here is part of my little journey now. And so I'm grateful that Ruby popped up here to give us all the okay that we're doing a good thing, because at some point you're going to hear me tell this story.
Oh, please do.
Yeah,
Please do.
I'll be telling people about joining the breath of fresh air and how Ruby gave us all confirmation.
I'm just
And
so why don't we do this? If other people besides listening to Denetra, why don't we give other people an opportunity um to answer the question, I guess.
What about a
Yeah, so for those of you who maybe came in a little later, so Denetra posed two questions. What patterns have you noticed in your life that keep tugging at you to come closer to your faith? And have you become close enough to God to recognize those patterns as Ruby and then act upon them? Serve somebody who wouldn't serve you. We know from our faith that God said, first you have to be the servant, not the leader. I think I'm paraphrasing that, but he washed the feet of his disciples. So I'm going to stop chattering, and Kathy, you manage that.
wait, your sound went off, Natalie.
I I shredded myself before I should have. Um, so you manage the question and answer, period. That's what I'm saying. So if folks want to chime in.
Denetra, thank you for joining us today. I wanted to address your question about noticing patterns in our own lives. What you brought today, I'm very grateful for. To remind me of my own mother. I wouldn't be sitting here right now without my relationship with my mother and her relationship to Abingdon and this community and patterns. Sometimes when things happen in our lives that we don't understand, that make us feel wounded or confused, or like, where did God go? They're just, in my opinion, they're just part of the journey that we each have to make individually. And that sometimes it takes many years to understand why.
Absolutely.
And I'm thinking this morning that one of the patterns in my life is a lot of things that happened with my mother and her relationships with others had an impact on me that I didn't recognize for many, many years. And so I appreciate and I thank you for reminding us of our mothers.
Yes, thank you.
My mother really wanted me to go to school. And I started graduate school in 2014 in August, and my mother passed in November 2014.
Okay.
And she was my best cheerleader.
Mm-hmm.
And now, I'm also a veteran, so we share some things in common. I get to do a job now that I never, ever would have been able to do if a lot of things, patterns, we can call them if we want, hadn't aligned themselves with faith and purpose and obedience.
Yes.
They just wouldn't have come true. And so what my passion is of, of having a way for myself and others to express those, um, that faith
Mhm,
in a way where we don't feel compromised. Or when I say compromised, I don't mean by God, but compromised by the world that we live in.
that's right.
Like rejection and
Yeah.
judgment from others. And so I'm just really, really grateful for your willingness to come spend some time with us and remind us of our, you know, our similarities, our strengths and our weaknesses and our goodnesses. Thank you.
And the thing to remember too, and I express it in my story, is that God knew that I hadn't truly been healed from that rejection. And so, in order to move forward, He brought that back to heal me. And that is what I want to just say to everyone, get that part of it. If there's something in you that has not been healed and you're still triggered by it, and you feel stuck, you feel like you're just stuck in a space, it's because you haven't released that to God. And you have to allow Him to bring the situation to heal you. And that could be a conversation, it could be anything, how He sees fit. But the thing is to recognize it and then be open to humbling yourself to it. Because what's on the next side of you obeying that is amazing. What's on the next side of you humbling yourself to that healing is your next step in faith. And it's always bigger than being stuck, being mad or being angry or whatever that is that's keeping you stuck. There's something there that needs to be healed. And if you allow God to bring a situation into your life where you recognize and you say, okay, I'm not going to be mad about this anymore, I'm going to face this, then what's on the next side of that door is magical.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Helen. I have really enjoyed this, and it's brought back so many memories. I've had two people in my life that really hurt me.
Yeah.
And I carried it for years, and I realized, who am I hurting but myself?
Yes.
I'm the only one that's suffering because if I brought it up to them, they'd say, well, I didn't do anything wrong.
Right.
So I forgave. I went to God and I said, help me forgive them. And one of them has passed away now, but we became friends again. And the other one, we became very good friends. But for years, I couldn't even look at them in the face.
Yeah.
And I thought, I'm not hurting anybody but me. And I love the nursing story because I was in nursing school. That's all I wanted to do. And I met my husband to be, and he was a year ahead of me. And I ended up going to my supervisor and saying, or the head nurse, director of nursing. And I said, can I stay in school and be married? And the rule was in the dark ages when I was back there, that you could not. The school would not allow you to be married. Of course, there were some that were and didn't tell anybody. But I went to her and she said, I've been married, Helen. And she said, I wouldn't give anything in the world for my marriage. And if you really want to be a nurse, you'll figure it out. Mm-hmm. So I quit nursing school. I got married. We traveled. He was in the military. So this is why in ROTC, this is why I wanted to go with him. And it was, 10 years later, I had 3 children. Mm-hmm. I taught school. I did all kinds of different things, different careers. And he was transferred to another town. And I was weeping on the way because I said, I didn't want to leave my hometown. Mm-hmm. And lo and behold, I listened and I followed. I went back to nursing school at mm-hmm. that time because I said, when my youngest gets in 1st grade, I'm going back to school.
Amen.
And I asked my husband, what do you think? And he said, it's the best insurance policy I could ever buy, because if anything happens to me, you have a career. So, you learn to listen. And now as I'm older, I don't have a ruby, but I call it God winks.
That's good too.
Something prays on and prays on me and prays on me. I listen to it. And just this year, I always go to Florida for 5 weeks in the winter.
Oh, good.
And it kept praying on me not to go this year. And I'm like, but I want to. This is something I enjoy doing. And it kept praying on me. And a friend of ours, a couple, were going with me. And the night of, and I didn't realize it, the night I could get my refund back, I called my friend and I said, they're doing some construction on this building. What do you think about going this year? And she said, I'm fine either way. I said, for your husband's health reasons and whatever. She said, do whatever. So I prayed about it. And that morning I woke up and went to the phone. I was told, no, do not go. And lo and behold, I canceled it and found out 2 weeks later that I had to have a heart valve transplant.
Oh.
And this was God's way of saying, don't you dare go.
Yeah.
Don't listen to me. Don't make your own decisions around it. So thank you for sharing, because it brought back so many memories.
Yeah. And it's
So
the thing.
I don't have a Ruby, but I have a God wink.
Well, this is resonant with all of us, I think. I think all of us can have a space in our lives where we have thought to do something and then wish we had not, or we have taken on something and wish we had not, because we saw the evidence, but we ignored the evidence.
He gives us a choice.
Yeah, he gives us a choice. And the thing is, again, that other question that I posed is, are you close enough to God to recognize it and then obey?
Yes.
Because the obedience is what gets you to the magic. Because if not, you'll get the test again. You'll get the test again and again and again. And you'll be stuck. And sometimes, like you said, for years, you'll just be mad and you'll be stuck. And you'll be trying to figure out when you're 90 why you didn't have a certain life that you wanted. And it's all because of obedience. It's because of these things that God can only orchestrate in our lives. People can give us a lot of things, but none of it compares to what God can give us. And I think that is part of being lucky. I call it lucky to have a North Star. Because if I didn't have that North Star based on the vision that God had given me when I left the Navy, that he wanted me to do something else, I don't know if I would have made it. But he gave me a North Star. And so here I am plugging along because I now trust that I'm in the right direction. And whatever this process is, I'm going to go through it.
Denetra, that was absolutely wonderful. Thank you so much. And I'm sure that there will be many, many other people who look online like you did and gain more insight and look for their own North Stars. Mm-hmm. By the way, mine is a sequin. Mm-hmm. Long story, but anyhow.
I love to hear.
And that's for another day. When you come for tea, I will share that with you.
Okay, I'm waiting on my invitation.
Okay, very nice, very nice. Any last comments before we have a closing prayer? Well, Denetra, you have a wonderful day. You have brought so much to us, and we thank you for that. And I will never hear Ruby's name again without thinking of you. By the way, I have always wanted my name to be Ruby.
Is that right?
Yes, it is. I love the name, but
is the person who logged in, Ruby, still there?
No, she's not. She's a pediatrician, and I have a feeling she had other duties, but
well, let her know she played a significant role.
She did. She did.
And I hope that you all will take this with you today and know that it's bigger than the meeting today. This was much bigger. I hope so. Hope
yes,
you realize that all of you who joined into something really magical.
Love the term magical.
Yeah. Thank you so much. And
Thank
if I could, Natalie, can you send me a list of everyone who attended today's meeting? The names? Because that's going to be important for my journey as I move on.
Ma'am.
Okay.
Very good.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Denetra.
Yeah.
And our closing prayer is a Franciscan prayer. May God bless you with discomfort at easy answers, half-truths, and superficial relationships, so that you may live deep within your heart. May God bless you with anger at injustice, oppression, and exploitation of people, so that you may work for justice, freedom, and peace. May God bless you with tears to shed for those who suffer pain, rejection, hunger, and war, so that you may reach out your hand to comfort them and to turn their pain to joy. And may God bless you with enough foolishness to believe you can make a difference in the world, so that you can do what others claim cannot be done, to bring justice and kindness to all our children and the poor. In God's name, amen.
Amen. Amen. Amen.
Thank you all.
Denetra,
Thank
I
you.
would like to say one thing.
Yes.
I'm Peggy.
Hi, Peggy.
I have a golden retriever we adopted from Turkey. I believe his name was Reuben, but he's called Ruby. His name is Ruby. It's not a girl, so we think his name was Reuben. So we
Okay.
adopted him, and he came over with 5 other golden retrievers in crates to Washington, D.C. We went through a rescue organization.
Oh, wow.
He's a he, though, so everyone thinks he's a she, but I think his name might have been Reuben, but
Peggy
I just,
Rubin, too.
Reuben, yeah. I needed to say that at the end.
Well,
Okay.
thank you. And look, I hope that you all will leave today with hopefully a breath of fresh air. No pun intended, but definitely I hope that this story, my North Star story,
Oh,
will
right here. Got it right here.
will sparkle something in all of you today and realize that truly you have been a part of something really magical today.
Thank you so much. It's been
Thank you,
wonderful listening
Denetra.
to you.
Okay,
Um,
I'll see y'all when I come for tea.
Yes, yes.
yes.
Bye.
Bye-bye.